Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, a big acquisition begins IIB's next chapter. Indiana's rural communities are getting some much-needed state help. We introduce you to the Oakley Brothers Distillery and the Global Village Welcome Center. Hoosier businesses have a new incentive to make sure their employees are vaccinated. We check in with Ball State's Rising Star Director of Athletics, and the event known as Indiana's Nicest Day returns. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. In a deal that combines the state's most well-known business news brands, IBJ Media has acquired Grow Indiana Media Ventures and the Inside Indiana Business platform of business news products. Gary Dick will continue to lead Inside Indiana Business, which will become a new division of IBJ Media. IBJ CEO Nate Feltman joined Gary to discuss the deal.
Really happy that we could do this deal and bring this together. We've been talking about it for some time. And as I've said a lot in the last week or so, I really believe this is a deal combining the two organizations where 1 + 1 = 3. The opportunity to come together and to do a lot more things.
Yeah, I'm super excited, and I couldn't agree more. I first, Gary, want to just congratulate you and the entire Grow Indiana Media Ventures, Inside Indiana Business team for what you have done for broadcast journalism, specifically in this state and from a business standpoint and a community and economic development standpoint. What you've done as an entrepreneur, Gary, is just truly extraordinary. And I couldn't be more excited to partner with you and continue to build something that's incredibly special for our state, Gary. So thank you for what you did 20 plus years ago. I know Scott Jones was part of that as well. And so his vision and your vision to launch this, is just fantastic. And I couldn't agree more in terms of what you just said, Gary. So, I'm just excited about what we collectively can do together. And that means, connecting more Hoosiers, engaging more Hoosiers, and thinking about how we can play a role in making this state an even more prosperous state.
Yeah, well, very nice of you to say that, Nate. And again, agree on what this combination means. And you look at the statewide impact and what we can bring. The other piece, and this is a growth story, but the other piece is local ownership. I know the both of us, we're both native Hoosiers. Both, of course, live here in Indiana. And the local ownership piece, which is unique now, it's going away from that more to the out-of-state corporate ownership in media. This keeps everything local.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer, as you know, Gary. We talked a lot about this throughout our discussions about our combination. I'm just a huge believer that local ownership makes such a huge difference. We've seen it beyond media. When companies are owned locally, the kind of contributions that their executives and their entire companies make to our city and state, our cities and state. And so it's the same thing applies here in media. It's going to be phenomenal to have, our companies together and really Hoosiers focused on Hoosiers and having a reliable, credible source of information, of course, within the business sector, the political and government sectors. And I believe that's incredibly important to maintain.
Yeah, Nate, and you have an interesting perspective on that, as many people will remember. You were Secretary of Commerce for several years in the Daniels administration. So you have that statewide economic development, community development perspective. And our coverage as we grow and expand in ways, obviously here in central Indiana, but beyond, can potentially have, I think, real impact.
Yeah, it's something that I began to appreciate as Secretary of Commerce and involved in economic development during the Daniels administration, just how important, what you do, what other companies that are headquartered and entrepreneurs are doing in our state. And I do have an appreciation, as I know you do, on how that comes together and what local ownership means. So yeah, I'm excited that we are going to be such a unique fabric of our business and our community development, nonprofit sector, government sector that we can continue to dig deeper and tell the stories of the great things that are happening in the state, like you've been doing for 20 plus years, and we've been doing at the IBJ for 40 plus years. And really highlight for Hoosiers what's happening, not just here in central Indiana from the IBJ perspective, but the entire state, and really give Hoosiers a glimpse of what their opportunities might be, and how do they look for the next opportunity for them to improve their lives. And those are the kinds of things that I know you care about and I care about. And so this is part of my excitement.
Well said, Nate. And again, congratulations to you as well. This combination is something we've been talking about for a while, now becoming a reality, and can't wait to get started and grow this business and help, in a sense, help grow the state as well. So, Nate, thanks for joining us, and we'll certainly see you soon.
I'm looking forward to it, Gary. Thank you.
All right.
Indiana rural communities are getting a much-needed boost from the Office of Community and Rural Affairs. The support will help them optimize their pandemic relief funds. Okra Executive Director Denny Spinner came on the show to detail the Hoosier Enduring Legacy Project.
Talk about what it is all about, because it's really designed to help these communities throughout the state of Indiana, smaller communities, deal with the impact, the financial impact of the pandemic.
Well, Gary, one of the first things that we did as an agency when that ARPA funding came out, identified a large number of communities. Every community is basically going to get some funding for that. One of the first things we did as an agency was send out a survey to the local units of government, local leaders. What's Okra's role in this? And it came back very clear that they needed some guidance. They needed somebody to step alongside them and really connect the funds that are unprecedentedly coming to these communities and connect that to projects and priorities that would help them leverage that dollar as much as they possibly can. And really the name of the program kind of wraps it up. It's the Hoosier Enduring Legacy Program. This is an opportunity of legacy proportions for cities, towns, and counties to make decisions about funding that we hope is once in a lifetime to connect things that can really change your community.
Yeah, and a key part of this, I know, as we were talking off camera, is the participation of IU, Purdue, Ivy Tech, Ball State, all involved in connecting with these communities around the state.
Absolutely. When we started this discussion, if you think, one of the reasons that I guess I'm here for this job was Huntingburg was a stellar community, and the stellar program had a dynamic impact on our community. As we looked at where the situations in rural Indiana is now, Stellar was a great program, but we're taking all the elements of Stellar and trying to connect that to these unprecedented dollars, and having partners like the IU Center for Rural Engagement, the Ball State Communities Institute, Ivy Tech, and the Purdue Center for Rural Development. They all know these communities so well, and being able to bring those resources to rural Indiana and have them focus on really our needs in rural Indiana right now, I think is an offering that is really exciting for all of us.
Hey, what are those needs, Denny? You know firsthand the needs, being a former mayor in Huntingburg in southern Indiana. You know what small town Indiana is all about. What's the state of rural Indiana, rural economic development in your view?
Well, I think the four pillars that are part of this help program, I think identify those needs, Gary. And one of the things that top on the list, and we're engaged in this in so many ways here at Okra, is that e-connectivity. How do we connect rural Indiana to make it the place that people can live, do work, and prosper? And if you're not connected, that's just number one. I think community wellness. I think we're facing challenges in wellness right now in our rural Indiana communities that have never been faced before because of the separation and the distancing that happened during COVID. So what is community wellness? That's more than just a walking trail. It's that health that you have to have, and quality of place. You've got to have quality of place to really make Indiana thrive and grow. So those pillars are really the keys to what we can do as an agency to connect people and make these communities very strong.
Very good. The HELP program, Okra's Executive Director, Denny Spinner. Great perspective, too, on rural Indiana. Denny, as always, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Gary.
All right.
A dream that started on the Inca Trail in Peru has resulted in a family-owned and operated distillery in Anderson. Brothers Jason and Jared founded Oakley Brothers Distillery in 2018. Around Indiana reporter Mary Rachel Redman has more on the story.
Two brothers, a barrel, and a dream.
My brother and I kind of were playing around with it, doing a little garage exploration, and then we started making whiskey and learning techniques of barrel aging.
We went to Machu Picchu and hiked the Inca Trail. We were actually trying their spirits, and we found that our conversations kept leading into, hey, we should open up something.
That same year, the two Oakley brothers found themselves on yet another excursion, this time on motorcycles in the Smoky Mountains.
Yours truly had a flat tire right at dusk.
And we were stuck.
In waiting hours and hours for a tow truck, the plan was hatched.
And we actually talked it out right there. Let's do it.
And there it was. Come hell or high water, Jared and Jason were going into business together, making small batch booze.
By 2011, and if we were going to do it, this is our time to do it.
And before long, the duo was distributing its own bourbon products to area liquor stores. Then opportunity came knocking in downtown Anderson.
Didn't have really any dedication to Anderson other than we were initially in Edgewood, but we had an opportunity to take over this building. It is a metropolitan area and it is a growth area that is starting to revitalize.
Oakley Brothers Distillery officially opened its doors in 2018. The renovated space now features a cocktail bar, lounge, and ever-expanding production operations. The man that makes the magic happen back here,
and there you have it.
master distiller and face of Mullet Head Bourbon, Eric Hodson.
It's a 500-gallon tank. When they're done in here, I move them over to the fermentation tank. We'll transfer it on over to the still here. When it gets heated up and it gets up to about 190, 195, that's when it'll start through the process of distilling. Then this is the chiller that cools it back down, turns it back into liquid alcohol, and then it comes out here. There's heads, the beginning of it, which is poison, basically. And then I start tasting it and smelling it for the hearts, which is what I keep. It's a pretty simple process, very fun to do.
And by all accounts, delicious too.
We concentrate on bourbons. We also do a really nice agave whiskey, which is basically an American tequila. We do liqueurs like limoncello. We've been known to kind of get a little on the edge and do absinthe.
And perhaps Oakley Brothers' biggest claim to fame, they're the very first to legally produce moonshine in the state of Indiana.
One of our really big sellers is the apple pie moonshine, which is a traditional old school recipe, and that stuff sells by the pallet.
And as a wise man once said, behind the success of every small business, there's a family. In this case, two brothers, realizing a dream and making it happen.
Being the older brother, sometimes the younger brother can get under your skin, but it's still good times. He's a way better salesman than I'd ever be. I'm a little bit more of the operational side of the house, but it takes both parts to make the package. I'm proud to do this.
Mary Rachel Redman, Inside Indiana Business.
The International Marketplace Coalition has developed what it expects to be the ultimate cultural destination in the Midwest. The Global Village Welcome Center in Indianapolis is attracting attention around the world. Executive Director Mary Clark joined us with more.
The International Marketplace, first to kind of tee this up, is the old Lafayette Square area. And over the last several years, and you've been such an integral part of making this happen, has grown into a multinational, multicultural area with so many restaurants and businesses that are located there.
Absolutely, Gary. It is a place we like to tell people that if you get out of your car and go into the businesses, it's like traveling the world without leaving Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Right here. I mean, on one block, you can go to Yemen, Greece, Mexico, El Salvador. Where do you want to go? You can travel right here in Indianapolis.
In a sense, Mary, do you think you're still a well-kept secret? Because it is really amazing how many businesses, restaurants are there.
So I think we're a well-kept secret here in Indianapolis. But do you know we're starting to get busloads that are coming in from Cincinnati, Chicago? I mean, people are coming from all over to find us.
That's interesting. Okay, big event coming up October 1. You're really creating an iconic destination there, the Global Village Welcome Center. Talk about the center and what it's all about.
So the Global Village Welcome Center is a place where everybody can come and find themselves. It's a museum that celebrates all cultures. And the wonderful thing I think about this museum is that approximately 99% of the artifacts that we have here have been donated from people all over the globe. When people walk in our doors now, the eyes just light up. And if they don't see themselves, I can almost promise you to the person, a day, 2 or 3 days later, we're getting things from other parts of the globe that represents these people that now call Indy home.
Yeah, about 30 seconds left, Mary, but, I think another byproduct of what you're doing there, as Indiana attempts to keep and attract businesses from all over the globe, this area is really an attractive piece of what Indianapolis has to offer.
Absolutely, yes. It's a piece that shows that Indianapolis, Indiana, is a welcoming state, a place where everybody can find home. If you don't see yourself here in this area, you're not looking too hard because we're all here.
Very good. Mary Clark, Executive Director of the International Marketplace Coalition, the Global Village Welcome Center opening October 1. Mary, congratulations, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. There's a new incentive for Indiana businesses to make sure their employees are vaccinated against COVID-19. Jennifer Ferrer detailed the COVID Stops Here campaign with Kylie Valletta on the Business of Health.
So why did the Wellness Council want to launch this campaign?
Several years ago, the Indiana Chamber realized that the health of our state was a key economic development and economic recovery tool that they needed. They need a healthy workforce. And right now, we know that in order for the economy to get back to where we need to be, we have to stop COVID and we have to keep our fellow Hoosiers healthy. And we believe that the Stop COVID campaign or the COVID Stops Here campaign will allow us to do that.
So companies can achieve various levels. 70% vaccinated is bronze, all the way up to 100% platinum. How do you think this recognition will benefit companies here in Indiana?
Well, the recognition will benefit the employers by allowing them to promote it internally to their employees, saying, we take your health and well-being very, very seriously. It will also help employers leverage the recognition externally by telling their customers, their partners, their vendors that, we're a safe place to do business. You can come in to our place in our establishment and ensure that you're going to be in a place that is fully or predominantly vaccinated.
And companies also get a free media kit with this designation, right?
They do, and the media kit is really there to help them leverage the internal and external messaging, whether they want to post something at their door, post something in their social media. The toolkit will allow them access to materials to do that.
And you work with employers every day. Are you hearing some hesitancy from employers broaching this topic with their employees?
We do. Health and well-being is an individual state and when employers get a part of that conversation, there is concern and there's hesitancy with that. But what we really want employers to know is that they can ask their workforce whether or not they are vaccinated. They can mandate vaccinations if they so choose. It is not a HIPAA violation, which we often get asked about because we're asking about, a public health question, and we're not asking about individual health.
We talked earlier about how I think a lot of people and companies too are kind of in this COVID fatigue stage. Do you think this really kind of helps companies push through this?
Yeah, COVID fatigue is real, right? I mean, we've been having these conversations for 18 months now, and we're in a place where we need to heighten the awareness with the surge and the Delta variant. We have to make sure we're being diligent in the work that we're doing as individuals and employers as well. Employers need to continue to follow CDC recommendations to social distance where appropriate, mask where appropriate. And at this point, we know that vaccines work, and we are urging employers to get their workforce vaccinated.
And you mentioned this campaign might be especially helpful for small to medium companies. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, if you look at the makeup of the employers in the state of Indiana, we have a few large and we have a predominantly small to mid-sized businesses throughout the state. So it's going to be really important that we support them. Large companies may have the mechanism within their workforce or within their structure to send out this messaging, but we want to be able to help all employers encourage their workforce to get vaccinated. We know that employers are an important voice when it comes to educating the workforce, and we want to support them and help it make it easy for them to send this message.
Okay, Jennifer, about 100 companies on the roster so far. Good luck as the campaign moves forward, and thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Hoosiers have a new resource in Hendricks County to help prepare them for high-demand jobs in areas including logistics and robotics. It's called Made at Plainfield. Hendricks College Network Executive Director Brandy Wethington-Perrell joined us with details.
Every community, not only in Indiana, around the country, really battling with this workforce pipeline, training, getting a more trained workforce. This, I think, is an interesting development made at Plainfield, paid solely, new building, by the town of Plainfield as they recognize this is something that's important. Give us kind of a thumbnail sketch of what Made at Plainfield is all about.
Well, like you said, it really is a collaborative effort between many partners that came together. So over the past 3.5 years, we went from an idea to an actual building where we just opened those doors last month. We were working together with Vincennes University and their Logistics Training Education Center that was located in Plainfield, as well as Ivy Tech, which had an office in Avon with many classrooms as well. We thought, why can't we bring more of this access together in one place where adults and students alike can come together, take classes anywhere from a certification up to a professional degree. And that's what we're trying to include in the training that's offered throughout here. We have other partners too, like the Department of Homeland Security has their Indiana Fire Safety Training Academy there. We have Work One, which I think is going to be a perfect fit as they provide resource that a lot of people need when you need unemployment or you need some training. They're right there and they can walk across the hall and take a class if that's what their goals are. And then Hendricks College Network is there to just be an advocate for education in our community and to listen to our employers and ensure that we are being employer-led in the offerings that we have.
Yeah. Talk about, this is one-stop shopping, it sounds like. You have the training, the credentialing, and all those types of things happening in one spot. How important and how much connectivity have you had with the business community in Hendricks County to see what they need, what they want? Certainly supply chain, distribution, logistics, very important in that area. How much interaction have you had with business?
Yeah, across our region, we've really been able to interact with the distribution, warehouse, and logistics field incredibly. We had a Skill Up grant in our community that really allowed us to connect with them. And industry sector partnerships have always been important to us, but that industry obviously in our region is a big one. So we meet with them on a regular basis, and we broke it down and we created some career pathways and we listened to what the needs were. We listened to what the pay was. We talked to them about what was working and what wasn't. And we're able to implement a lot of training that's happening right there in this facility now. We've got robotics, we've got automation, industrial maintenance, all kinds of supply chain classes that are really going to contribute to the workforce.
Yeah, I know an example of the partnerships you've created there. As we were talking off camera, you talked about a program specifically with Amazon.
Yeah, Vincennes University, their Logistics Training and Education Center, they have a working warehouse and a robotics lab as well. So they've developed a curriculum specific to Amazon that is going to train their employees. And so they're in there every day and honestly, often every night, working on these robotic arms, and they're setting up a working warehouse that looks a lot like what's happening in Amazon, but will be functioning out of this facility. So they'll be well prepared for, I think, a career path that'll be rewarding.
Yeah, I've got to believe this is an economic development asset, a tool. As companies look to grow in Hendricks County or maybe locate there, having training and a facility like this would maybe be viewed as a plus.
We've been talking with a lot of our partners that are really excited to do maybe employee onboarding right inside the facility. We have a lot of the same things that they would be using when they come in, so they can come here, get their orientation going on, get that training, and then be successful day one.
Yeah. Hey, very quickly, about out of time, Brandy, but you've got a big facility there, and the reaction early on in the first month or so has been pretty positive.
It's been incredible. We've got 100,000 square feet, and I feel like we're almost bursting at the seams. We're looking at four-year partners and talking with both Indiana State University and Purdue to do some STEM programming as well. So I think we've got a lot of potential to grow this, and who knows what the future holds. Maybe we'll even start expanding soon.
All right, very good. Filling that pipeline in Hendricks County with Made at Plainfield, Brandy Wethington-Perrell. Really appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward to following the story.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
All right.
Beth Getz has made her mark in just 3 years as Ball State University's Director of Athletics, and the NCAA is taking notice. She's now taking on an additional role within the Division I Women's Basketball Tournament. She spoke with Bill Benner about that and her goals at Ball State on Inside Indiana Sports.
Your work on the Division I Women's Basketball Committee, and you will ascend to the full chair in next season. That's quite an accomplishment and quite a responsibility. Talk about that if you would.
Yeah, it sure is. It's really a privilege to have a opportunity to support the women's basketball championship, and just know that it's the culminating experience that so many athletes across the country aspire to. And I'm just really grateful to have an opportunity to support the work that group does and make sure we can host a great championship. And we've got a tremendous chair in Nina King, the athletic director at Duke. And so I'm excited to continue to learn under her. So show me the ropes this year so that I'm prepared to move into the chair role in 22-23.
Yeah, and Beth, you're coming aboard at a time where, again, there were issues last year with the San Antonio Women's Final Four, but certainly great opportunities for growth, for more and more recognition for the women's basketball programs at Division I.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, there's never been more enthusiasm around women's sports generally, and certainly around women's basketball. And so, while certainly unfortunate that we had some of those issues that we faced last year and have faced, frankly, in years previously, but this is a great opportunity to really address those head on, and we're looking forward to what that'll mean for the future of the game.
As our interview takes place, the Ball State Cardinals getting ready to play Western Illinois, so we can't talk about the result. We hope it's certainly successful, but what a season the Cards under Mike New had last year, winning the MAC championship, then winning the bowl game. That was just a fun story to watch as it unfolded, and I know you hope to carry it on beginning this year.
Well, it was a historic year, and we just couldn't be more proud of our student athletes and certainly the culture and the program that Mike New has built over his time here. We knew it was coming, and to see it explode on that stage last year was incredible. And so, I've shared with so many, the only disappointment was that we couldn't share it more broadly with our fans and alums, but I know they're hungry and excited to try and run it back this year as we get started in this exciting season.
And getting ready to have a ribbon cutting on a new indoor practice facility, and certainly that will be another incredible asset to the BSU Card football program.
Yeah, we couldn't be more pleased with how that building turned out. So $15 million project, about 84,000 square feet. Certainly going to support football, but several other sports will utilize that space as well. And it's really completed that complex there and is already making an impact daily on our program and opportunities for everybody to practice. And it's such a nice facility. We always think about using it when the weather's, we've got inclement weather, but they just love being in there. So it turned out wonderful, and we're grateful for the support we had to get that project completed.
An evolving world in NCAA Division I athletics, and I know Ball State really was proactive on the entire issue, the new issue of name, image, likeness, and you've already taken, again, proactive steps to help your athletes, your student athletes, as this new world unfolds.
Yeah, certainly a lot of changes on the forefront, but this is, a topic we're really supportive of, empowering our athletes in this space and athletes across the country. And so, really our approach to this is to provide as much education in and around what it takes to brand and the business side of an agreement like this that we can. And if they can leverage that now as their time as a student athlete, that's great. But we know those tools and that skill set is going to be incredibly valuable for them long after they're done playing college sports. And so really that's been our focus in that space, is to make sure that we utilize that opportunity to continue to provide education that'll help them build their brands.
Well, Beth, we certainly appreciate you coming on the program. We wish you more success for Ball State, not only in football, but in other sports. And great to see you again, going back to our Horizon League days. And so always good to see you, and happy for your success. And again, let's hope it keeps coming.
Thanks so much, Bill. All the best, and chirp, chirp.
And finally this week, after the pandemic forced its cancellation in 2020, the Penrod Arts Fair makes its return this year. The event is known as Indiana's Nicest Day. Penrod Society President Tim Haley and Rob Dixon with the Indie Musicians Relief Fund joined us with a preview.
Well, let's talk about, first of all, Penrod. And so many people, of course, are familiar with Penrod. It's such a tradition here in Indianapolis. Tim, give us a thumbnail description of Penrod. And I know it was a big disappointment not to be able to have the fair last year, but tell us all about Penrod.
Yeah, so Penrod has become an annual celebration of the arts and culture in Indianapolis. We've had the fair, as you mentioned, this is our 54th fair. The very first fair was in 1967 and was just a benefit to raise money for what is now the museum building at Newfields. And we've had the fair every year since. Every year it's been an opportunity to celebrate all that we've done for the arts, in the arts community in Indianapolis.
Yeah, it really does. And again, back to your point, this benefits the arts community here in Indianapolis and Central Indiana.
Yes, we have, of course, our artists show up and they get to sell their work, but we also have musicians to highlight some of the music in Indianapolis. We have areas for nonprofits, arts-focused nonprofits, to provide information about what they're doing in the community, and local food vendors, local brewers, everything, all sorts of art.
Hey, Rob, the Indianapolis Jazz Foundation is a great partner of Penrod. Talk about that relationship and why it's important.
Yes, so we've been working with the Penrod Society for about 4 years, and we curate the music. Originally, we just curated the jazz stage, which they had a jazz stage there, and a blues stage, and the main stage where they had rock and roll. And about the third year in, I think Tim reached out and said, "Hey, would you want to do all of the stages and just curate all the music for us?" And so we did that. And then they had another event and said, "Hey, would you like to curate the music for us on this Magic in the Making event?" That's absolutely. So we've done so many partnerships with the Penrod Society, and we're very grateful and thankful.
Yeah, and last year was a special relationship, I think, right? Because no event, but you were able to raise money for the Indie Musicians Relief Fund. Talk about that effort, $100,000 plus going to some folks who really needed it.
Yeah.
Okay. You go ahead. You want to start, Tim?
Yeah, sure. So Rob and I were talking just about music in general right as quarantine hit, and we had to pivot and do a lot of things differently, and it was really on the fly, coming up with a way to benefit musicians here in Indy they'd lost their jobs, and they need, this is rent money and grocery money and survival money, just to not just keep the arts alive, but to keep the artists available for when things opened up again.
Yep. And moreover, what I really appreciate about the Penrod Society, and actually Tim and my relationship with him, is how quickly that we were able to move on, organizing a relief fund. Things like that usually take maybe a month or 6 weeks. I mean, we did it in a matter of days. I mean, we started talking one day, and I said, well, I just have to get a couple people on our board to approve it. We did that. And then we said, okay, we can have money. And then we brought in the Jazz Kitchen and another organization called Our Music Group. And we were on our way to raising money. And we raised $50,000 very quickly. Yeah. Ultimately, we raised over $100,000. All
right. Well, it's a great annual event coming up September 11, Penrod Arts Fair. Tim Haley, the president of the Penrod Society. Also, Rob Dixon, artistic director of the Indianapolis Jazz Foundation. Thank you both. Good luck with the event. I know it's going to be great. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you. Great.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.